Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you are watching this. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. In today's video, we'll be talking about people getting sacked and scapegoats. Yes, the giveaway is right there, but there are two people's heads who are on the chopping block, according to reports today. We'll get into all of that in a second. Don't forget, guys, if you are enjoying the content, can you please start by giving the video a quick like? If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for all your latest Forest news, watch along streams and everything else. And don't forget, a quick reminder, Forest will be going away to Brighton next Tuesday. The game will be aired on Amazon. If you haven't got access to it, there is a link in the description and pinned to the comments for you to get a free 30-day trial for Amazon Prime, which will give you Amazon Video as well, so you will be able to watch the game free of charge, and you can cancel at any time. So go check that link out. Let's get into the video. Alright guys, so let's jump into it and get talking, because it's quite an interesting debate about to happen. Forest apparently and speculatively, and according to the likes of the Independent, I think it is, have said that Forest have sacked the head of recruitment, George Syrianos, and head of scout, Andy Scott. These are just reports, nothing's been confirmed by the club. But it's quite big, even though I'll admit myself, I know a little about them, but not the ins and outs of them. The hierarchy in Forest aren't exactly my strongest spot, because I actually care what happens on the pitch, not really what happens off it, as long as what happens off it obviously impacts in a positive way what's happening on it. But what this, if true, is showing is that clearly Marinakis has not been happy with certain things that have happened over the summer. We all saw the talk last week about Steve Cooper. Is he going? Is he not going? He's been sacked. There was a meeting on Wednesday where they were going to dismiss him, and then he gets a new contract. Papers got it all wrong on that one. And that's why I've said with this one, I haven't seen anything official from the club. But there is enough talk going on at the moment to show that there is a lack of happiness with what's happened. But the point I want to make isn't so much about who's being sacked. It's more about the scapegoating and the thought process behind all of this. If this is true, how do you go from spending 150 million, who you've basically given that check to these guys to go and do their job? It's the scouts, it's the recruitment team as well, to then suddenly turn around and say, after the money's been spent, don't like what you've done, get out. That's me. It's just weird. I don't really understand this report. And the bigger message, and my nose is itchy, sorry guys. Like I said, how does this impact the on-pitch stuff, which is what I care about? Because think about this. If you are one of the 22 or 6 billion, whatever it is, that we've signed, and you're hearing this report, you have to think as a human being, am I part of that problem? Are they getting rid of him because the way I've performed? Or is it my attitude? Or did someone here not want me, but someone else forced it over the line? That, for me, is the message that this sends. And it really sends a negative message throughout the club. And could it impact what we see on the pitch? I think it's a weird one. I would like the club to come out and just confirm or deny it. I don't want them to ignore it. But as mentioned, it doesn't really matter who these guys are behind the scene. I love them all if they're doing something positive for Forest. But we can't keep having reports like this coming out in the papers, true or not. Things like this should be done behind closed doors. Most Forest fans, and I'm just broad brushing it here, I don't think really care, a bit like me, about who's in charge at the back, who's doing this. I bet most people couldn't name more than 4 or 5 people in the backroom staff, as in the upper levels of it. Because we don't really care, as long as they perform on the pitch, that's the main thing. But this is the point, because the performance on the pitch aren't quite there yet, everything is being scrutinized. And the microscopic level of scrutiny changes now because we are in the Premier League. Every little nook and cranny, every skeleton in any closet will come out and does come out, because this is the Premier League and the eyes of the world are on this. So, wanted to start off with that one. Like I mentioned, it's not confirmed by the club, but there's enough reports out about it that potentially it has happened. Let me know your thoughts on it, but I'm more interested in how you think it impacts the team going forward. All right, guys, so what's my point here, and why have I put scapegoating in there? Because I do feel that Marinakis, if these reports are true, is potentially looking for a scapegoat. I don't know how much I believe this reports, because obviously they got a lot of stuff wrong last week. But it got me thinking into scapegoating on the pitch, and hands up, I'm very much guilty of doing that, blaming certain players on that. And is it fair to do? I think yes, in instances it is, and no in others. Because if a player's come on, let's just say they've never played, like Dennis, for example, who had his first start on Monday, and a lot of people I saw on social media were criticizing him, saying it was crap. Not the opinion I had on him, but I don't really think you can scapegoat or criticize a player's performance after just one game of seeing them. I do, on the other hand, think it's okay to criticize, obviously in the right manner, players who've maybe had a run of 4 or 5 games or something like that, and it's clear to see they're not Premier League standard or aren't buying into the ethos or what Cooper's trying to do, etc. So I think the point I'm making here is maybe we as fans, including me, starting with me, should I say, should just double check that when we're criticizing them, we're thinking about it first. Now, in game time, obviously it will be different. In the live streams when we do the watch along, passions ride high, emotions get high. You're probably going to say things you don't actually really mean. It's just frustration and anger. I think that's fine. I think, again, as long as it's semi-respectful, that these things are going to happen. This is football. This is how football works. And players as well should be susceptible to the criticism they take. They know they're in the spotlight. They know that the Premier League has microscopes inside the microscopes watching what they do, kick in, kick out. And this leads me on to what I want to discuss. And this is what we discussed on yesterday's Forest Forum, which was probably one of the most fun streams I've done. And I've done a lot of fun streams. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll be putting shorts of nice little clips of the funny moments from it. So keep an eye on those throughout the day. But I want to talk about Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson has been criticised very heavily over the last 2 days. This is the guy who was on everyone's profile picture after the Spurs match with his cap up in the air, saving Harry Kane's penalty. This is the guy, as Rads mentioned yesterday on the Forest Forum, who's actually guaranteed us our first 3 points of the season against West Ham because he saved the penalty and made some other wonder saves. My question to you guys who think he should be dropped for Hennessy, and I do understand it, is, do you think overnight Henderson has become a crap goalkeeper? Or do you think it's part of, it's something I've spoken about before, where in football, a crap team, or crap's a harsh word, but a team that's underperforming, even with good players in there, the badness spreads like a cancer, more so than the goodness of those players who can bring a team up and forward. It takes a very, very special player who can play and drag a team on their own with 10 other people playing average. So, for me, I don't think Dean Henderson has turned into a rubbish keeper overnight. What I will say is people need to remember that at his time at Man United, people wanted De Gea out to put Henderson in. Not over goalkeeping, as in shot-stopping ability or whatever. Over distribution. Man United fans think De Gea's distribution is extremely poor. And they would have wanted Henderson to start. Why? Because his distribution was top-notch. So think about that one for those of you who are on the put Hennessy into goal camp. Now, on top of that, he is not helped by the players around him. I've been very frustrated with how pedestrian our movement is in games, including in that Villa match. And yes, Henderson wasn't finding, sometimes they were open and he wasn't finding them. But most of the time, if you watch it, players are shirking away and not making themselves available to a pass from the keeper, be it the centre-backs, be it the CMs, be it the left and right backs. They have to keep moving and open themselves up. Football is played. Attack starts from the goalkeeper and defence starts from the strikers. That's how football is played now. And Forest need to learn that very, very quickly. We will do a video specifically on Dean Henderson, probably sometime after the Wolves game, as there's still a lot more things to come up this week on the channel. But I want to compare him, and let me know down below, and like the video if you want it as well. I want to do a comparison between Dean Henderson and certain other keepers in the Premier League, so we can do a compare and contrast. But I want to ask you guys, which keepers would you like me to compare him to? Would you like me to compare him to the Alissons and the Edisons of the league? Or would you like me to pick maybe the slightly weaker teams at the other ends of the pitch, maybe a Ward at Leicester or something like that? Or all of them? Let me know, and I'll happily put it together. But just so we can get a better understanding of where Henderson is in terms of saving, in terms of shot stopping, in terms of things like that, is it not worth giving him that understanding that the rest of the players around him are not doing enough to help him? I think bringing in Mangala and O'Brien into the team gives him options. Remember his interview on TalkSport when he mentioned Mangala coming into the team? He'd never heard of him, but he was so impressed with a person who was open and ready to pick the ball up. A keeper's going to notice these things because a keeper is going to be looking for these players to dish the ball out to. But let me know, are you in the Henderson in or are you in the Hennessy in camp? I think either way, just make your point and give me your opinion on it with some thoughts to it. And as always, as you guys know, I will back anyone's opinion as long as it's thought out and thoughtful on here. That will do for today's video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think there's a good amount there to discuss. If you haven't already, go watch the Forest Forum from yesterday. It was so entertaining. And I just want to give a shout out to Rads, to Ez, to Forest, and to Dave as well. And to Dora as well, who jumped on and gave us a special guest appearance. It was one of the most fun streams ever, and we had such a laugh. And for those of you who watched it, I hope you enjoyed it. But go check it out if you haven't already, and subscribe to all their channels as well as mine. And that leads me nicely on to say, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And guys, go pick up your free Amazon trial so you don't miss the Brighton match if you are not going. That's me out. I will catch you guys on the next video. Come on, you Reds.